I guess she applied for a specific visa. Could you tell us about that visa that the Netherlands has?
So she actually wanted to move to Italy and get through her Italian ancestry, but that route was going to take just a few years. And so in my master class, she learned about the DAFT visa, the Dutch American Friendship Treaty, which is a special visa for American citizens who want to move to the Netherlands. And really it's for freelancers, solopreneurs, or anyone who is self-employed. So this is a great option for a digital nomad who's maybe looking to spend, more than the Schengen allowance in Europe. It's pretty easy to qualify for. You need to register a business there, and it does not have to be an existing business. So if you want to start a business, or if you're a freelancer, you're transitioning into freelancing, you could start your freelance business there. And you just have to deposit 4,500 euros in a Dutch bank account and just kind of leave that there. You don't lose it, but you can't touch it for the duration that you're there on the visa.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that doesn't seem like a huge bar to be able to hop over for most folks. That's awesome. And when I read the article, that was the first I've heard about that visa. I just finally got my first digital nomad visa for Bali, for Indonesia. It just came in last week, which is the E33G 1-year remote worker visa. So I'm super excited about that, to spend a little bit more time in a country than I normally do. In the past, I've hopped around on, being a digital nomad on tourist visas for years, but it's nice to have a little bit more dedicated time and maybe learn more about the country you're in. So specifically with the DAFT visa, is there any way to leverage that visa into like citizenship later?
Yeah, I know a lot of people are interested in maybe getting that second passport, having that plan B. I got my citizenship in Spain, so I know that is something that can be very beneficial. In the case of the Netherlands, yes, the DAFT visa, those years on the DAFT visa do count towards residency. So permanent residency, which you get in 5 years after living in the Netherlands. And you may be eligible at 10 years to apply for citizenship. But the Netherlands does not recognize dual citizenship with the US. So that is just something to be mindful of. Not all countries allow dual citizenship. So if you're interested in the Netherlands, maybe talk to an immigration lawyer and see what your options are.
Okay, interesting. So take me back to the first time when you knew that this lifestyle of moving abroad was going to be for you.
Yes, we got to roll the clock back. I'm going to show my age here, but I always talk about my age in the work that I do. So we're rolling it back to the 90s, 1997. Actually, my first trip abroad was to the Netherlands. Speaking of the Netherlands, my first international trip, I was 17, and I begged my parents for my 17th birthday to send me to the Netherlands to visit my best friend that I had met in Houston, who was Dutch, but had to move back home. And surprisingly, my very conservative parents, who are immigrant parents from Iran and Colombia, said yes. And, even though I grew up in a multicultural household, I was still a little bit naive about the world. And so in my mind, the Netherlands was going to be like America, but maybe they just speak Dutch. But I got there and it was obviously completely different. And that novel experience made me feel like so energized, so alive. I had this childlike wonder, and it really was during that trip that I felt at the moment like, oh, I'm going to move to the Netherlands. I have to move here. That didn't pan out. I actually ended up moving to Spain, but it was that trip that spawned that, one, love of travel, but two, planted that seed that I would like to maybe live in a foreign country one day. And so from then on, just about every year, I would work for 9 months, save my money, and then send myself to a different country to travel and check that out during the summer. And did that for many years until I found my place in the world.
What made you fall in love with Spain?
Yeah. So on those trips of, going abroad every summer, I landed in Spain. I came to Spain when I was 21 to study Spanish for the summer. Although my mom is from Colombia, she didn't teach me Spanish, but she very much encouraged me to go to Spain and study Spanish that summer, even though I didn't know anyone there. That was the first time I had traveled abroad without visiting a friend. And I landed in Madrid, which is an incredible city. And it was kind of love at first sight. It was a city, I came from a very car-driven culture city, Houston, Texas, as many U.S. cities are. And I had never lived in a city where you could walk. And so it was the first time I was in a walkable city. I was feeding off the energy of just passing people on the streets. I was 21, and Madrid really is a city that never sleeps. So the nightlife was something just that captivated me. Being out till 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning. It was just fun. Meeting people from all over the world, and then Spanish people themselves were just so warm and friendly. And that it was just, I had my Goldilocks moment, I like to say. It just felt like the right place in the world for me. And really, yeah, Spain was my first love and still is. But it took a lot of time. That was 2001. It took a lot of time to actually figure out a plan to be able to move there one day.
I can imagine the nightlife of Madrid is very different from Houston.
Yeah, very much so.
And what would you say the kind of the most common challenges are that you see with people that are coming to you and they have this dream of moving abroad, but just really don't know where to start?
It's probably very similar to someone who wants to start their digital nomad journey. It's the work piece. I think a lot of people are ready to go, but they just don't know how to untether their lives. Either they have a 9 to 5 where they have to be in the office, or they have a remote job that they, cannot take outside of a certain geographic. So that's the biggest challenge for a lot of our women, or even people who have maybe a freelance or freelancers, but are struggling to find enough work to financially support themselves. So that's the biggest challenge.
I agree. It's challenging for folks that are looking for remote jobs, especially if their job isn't one that has a skill that is easily transferable to working remote. So I see that a lot. And even my background, I was working in the restaurant business and the warehouse business, which both were not able to just hop online and jump on a plane. So there are a lot of challenges there, because I think it is one of the hardest things and one of the most daunting things that, people are maybe a little afraid of, or it's really holding them back.
Exactly. And I think, for me, I got my first remote job before this boom. My first remote job I got in 2017. I was already living in Spain, but getting that remote job really was a game changer in terms of how I live my life. And so I just know, how much just getting that first remote job really can change what you think is possible for you. And I think, for us, we do, as much as we can to help people unlock that so they can start this next chapter of their life. I will say too, another challenge that people have is the visas. So for people who want to stay somewhere longer than the 3 months or 6 months, depending on the country, or maybe want to move somewhere permanently, understanding what visa options they have, especially in Europe. We work with a lot of women who want to move to Europe, which can seem like it's harder to move to, but in actuality, there's actually a lot of visas that people don't know about, like the DAFT that I mentioned. There's tons of visas that people don't know about that could be a good fit for them.
So I feel like in the States, there's this conception that Europe is more expensive than the US. What, in your experience, could you speak to that? Do you feel like it's more expensive? I mean, there's lots of different countries. It's a big place. Do you find that the cost of living is similar, more expensive, less expensive? Thanks for tuning in. If you found this episode useful, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. You can hear all the full episodes of Digital Nomad Nation wherever you listen to podcasts. Drop your key takeaway in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And remember, you're only one bold decision away from a life full of freedom.